Meanwhile, major developments in the IRS targeting scandal as new emails released to congressional investigators show that Lois Lerner floated the idea of examining Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley about 2 years ago. South Dakota Senator John Thune weighed in on that with Greta. Listen.
This should outrage not only Republicans but Democrats. And as you just mentioned, this latest example of targeting Senator Grassley, whose integrity really as a member of the United States Senate is unquestioned, is another example of political targeting. And it's clear that these guys who have the power literally to ruin and destroy people's lives will stop at nothing. And I think this is the Grassley letter is another example.
Jay Sekulow is Chief Counsel of the American Center for Law and Justice. How are you, Jay? Good morning to you. We may have to interrupt our segment. Let's see what happens.
We just got a decision, actually, Bill. The Noel Cannon case just came out, the president's recess appointment power.
That's the one that had to do with, what, the Senate was in break? An appointment was made?
Yeah, and the court ruled in favor of saying that the Senate was, in fact, controlling its own rules and the president did not have authority. That's what the initial read is.
So what happens then? The appointment is null and void? That person's
null
extracted?
And void.
What happens?
So we're getting it. I'm analyzing it right now. It just literally came out moments ago. I represent Speaker Boehner in that case before the Supreme Court. So indications are, at least the initial read, is that we prevailed.
All right, Jay. Stand by on that. We're going to go to Shannon Bream in a moment because there may be more on that as well, and there could be additional cases. On the Lois Lerner deal, what's the big deal here? Because she received a letter, and Grassley had an invite, and he and his wife were allegedly going to attend, and in the end they never did. What does all this mean?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue here is that the fact that I'm on the air, guys. The biggest issue right now is that we have, with the Lois Lerner email as it relates to Grassley, the idea that she would send that to exam for review is breathtaking. I mean, first of all, she's a tax-exempt organization head. She doesn't head up the examination division, yet she took it on her own prerogative to basically refer for an audit Senator Grassley because she didn't like what she perceived to be some meeting they were both going to attend and how it was being funded. So this was absurd, but it shows the nature and depth of what Lois Lerner was trying to do.
Make the distinction here, Jay. The examination was the word that was used in the email. Is that the same as an audit? Or is that just a step possibly toward
exactly right. The division of the IRS bill that does audits is the examination division. So when she said, let's send it to exam, that, in fact, was, without a question, sending it over for an audit review.
So the assumption was that Grassley was going to go and take his wife and not claim it, right?
Right, and not say that was income, and therefore they were going to catch the senator, who was, of course, a ranking member of the Finance Committee, which oversees the IRS. But this is the pattern and practice of what Lois Lerner's been engaged in and what that politicized IRS has been engaged in. The idea that she was going to send this to exam and not only threatened to do it, but wanted to do it, requested it to be done. The only reason it didn't happen was one of her deputies said, I don't think that's a really good idea. We probably shouldn't do that. So she finally backed off. But the fact that she was even thinking that she could send this to exam, and she's a tax-exempt specialist, but sending it over for an audit is really outrageous, way over the top.
I understand the point you're making. Why did this become public?
Well, it became public because there were some emails that were released, and Senator Grassley, although it could have been deemed private information, he signed what's called a 6103 waiver. That's the privacy waiver, and that allowed the House committee to say, to produce the Senator Grassley email.
And so this is 2012. Was that the same period that they were looking for emails that apparently were lost, deleted, destroyed, and the hard drives are no longer available?
I think it was right. I think they started finding those again right after in 12 because it was really 09 through April 11 that were the big lost years, which was when the whole targeting scheme was developed.
You know, because you start to wonder now, and the mind reels, and you wonder, well, what other sort of communications went out? And on this particular email, Jay, was it just internal within the IRS? Or is this one of the emails that would have been sent to another entity in Washington, D.C. outside the agency?
No. Yeah, this would have, it looks like this was what's called an interagency email. It would have gone from one division, the tax-exempt division, from Lois Lerner over to the examination division, the audit division. So it was within the IRS, but clearly way outside the scope of what Lois Lerner had the authority to do. And it shows the political nature of what she's doing.
To tell viewers why that's significant is because this was interagency. It was within the IRS. But the
Right.
emails that a lot of folks are looking for are the ones that they communicated with outside the agency. So then the ultimate
Correct.
question then becomes, with whom were you communicating at that time during the period in question? Give you the last word, then we got to run, Jay.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, we know it was the Department of Justice and at least the Federal Election Commission, two outside agencies that were not supposed to get information.
Thanks, Jay. Jay Sekulow. If there's more news from the
Thanks, Bill.
Supreme Court, hang on, okay? We might bring you back. Thank you,
I am
Jay.
right
Seven
here.
past.
Yes, sir.